Let's go inside the mind of a Week 8 power ranking. All right, Week 8. We're over halfway through the season, recording power rankings Wednesday night. Watching this Dodgers-Yankees game, it's a good one. But we're going to see how power rankings go this week. So I've been doing this more and more, where I already actually did the power rankings. I haven't really gone like individual team by team, so I'll do that on this recording, I guess. But I kind of already know. And again, there's like, it's kind of like last week. The good teams did good and the bad teams did bad. I also did catch up our happy matrix here and filled it out to be more current. Looking through this, it was interesting to see kind of some of the teams that were way overperforming and some that were pretty trash. So like obviously Andrew's fantasy team is doing amazing, but the Sooners just lost 3 games in a row for like, I don't remember the last time OU lost 3 games in a row. So not super pumped in Norman right now. Meanwhile, Denver sports apparently are now good. They were dog shit like the last 3 years, and now Colorado's good, and the Broncos are winning games somehow. I think it's their division's fucking trash outside of the Chiefs, maybe. I don't know. They're doing well, and Bo Nix is a top 10 quarterback in fantasy somehow. Not somehow. It's because he runs. That's how. But yeah, here's the current scores. Really, we're all doing pretty. Our teams are all pretty decent. Like, again, anything over 100 on this right-hand side means like your teams, at least in aggregate, are performing above expectations for the year. So there's only a few people even below 90%. Logan's team, and he's kind of getting knocked because he is NFL agnostic and he's a Sooner fan. But even his fantasy team isn't bad. So it's not fun to watch your college team lose, but and then of course all the Cowboys fans get knocked because Jera can't get the shit together in Dallas. But everyone's freaking out. Isn't Dallas like 4-4 or something? Like, it's not like they're 2-6. I don't know. We'll see. There's still so much talent on that roster. But yeah, overall, like, it's pretty decent season for us football wise, kind of across the board. So cool to look at. Now let's get into fantasy teams. Just a second. Okay. Yeah, so movement wise, I can tell you all that it's there really wasn't much movement rankings wise. But we'll kind of dig through teams here, take a look. The first thing I'll say is we fucking crushed it. Fantasy scores this week. I hit 115, and I was like, oh, that's usually a pretty solid score, 115. I wasn't even in the top half. I wasn't even above the median score. So yeah, I don't know. NFL offenses just like pop it off this week. Like, I'm not even upset about it. I put up a good score or whatever. But yeah, so a lot of high scores this week. It's going to happen, I guess. But we'll start down here with Logan and Travis. I'll just scroll through. Goddamn, that ending of that Bears Commanders game was insane. I haven't looked at too many of these scores. Yeah, here's a pop-off game for CD. Kelsey's coming back. I mean, I'm going to be calling out a lot of people just with how high the scores were. Tyrone Tracy, I think he got dinged up, but he's going to be all right. This one I'll call out I was a little salty about. Braylon Allen. I held on to this dude for like 6 weeks. And he was doing well, running efficient, and then they had their 2 down games where even Breece Hall sucked. And then, they fire Robert Saleh. He gets 2 carries last week. And then this week, 12 fucking carries. I've been holding on to this dude for like a month and a half. And, I still don't know, like, if he's ever going to be, at least this year, if he's going to be good enough where you start him. Again, he's just like, he is still an elite level handcuff for Breece Hall. But there's just no way to know if he's going to get 2 carries or 12 with the tutty. Like, he's probably worth having on a roster, but this is frustrating to see. So anyway, good get, Carl. I mean, I think it's good. Carl's typical strategy of just absolutely flood your roster with young running backs, and especially with the lead he has in the record-wise for the league. It's probably not a terrible strategy because running backs do get hurt. It just happens. Travis, unlucky that he didn't get the win. Jalen Hurts, though, 3 rushing touchdowns. Alvin Kamara still crushing it. Just solid numbies across the board. Amari didn't really do anything his first game. This is his first game, right? Yeah, and we're getting closer to Nico coming back. So, me and Travis just are like aggressively average this year. But our teams are also very consistent. So, somehow, although I think, I'll get into that whenever I talk about the team rankings, but I still really like Travis's team. They've haven't gotten the wins that I kind of thought they would, or really even made up the scores I thought they would, but still very good. So good job, guys. Then we get Logan here. So I called out last week I was a little bit worried about Baker not having his top 2 receivers. It turns out Cade Otton was just like that guy for Tampa Bay. Baker's still hucking the ball 50 times. This is crazy. But, he's getting the yards, getting the tutties, like 25 points from an offense with no real receivers of note anyway. So, I guess just keep running Baker out there. He's got to be like, I don't know, top 5 MVP this year. He's just putting up the numbers. Jonathan Taylor, great game. And then Malik, who else was I just thinking about? Pittman. There we go. I was like, I knew Logan had another Colt on his team. So these guys are going to get huge bumps because Anthony Richardson absolutely quit on his team this week, so he's getting benched. I don't know if Logan, why even hold on to him at this point? He's not going to be a starter, and Baker's killing it for you. He's just clogging up the roster at this point. But that's also going to help Pittman and Jonathan Taylor big time, having just anybody not Anthony Richardson. So for now, Scottie gets to take a victory lap on the Anthony Richardson experiment. I still think this is, if the dude gave a shit, I think he could still be the guy we thought he could be. It's not a talent issue, in my opinion. Yes, he's not going to turn into an incredible quarterback. But he is big enough and physical enough that he should be able to put up rushing touchdowns and get rushing yards. And he's just kind of a bitch and doesn't like playing football, is my guess. He was never going to get you the passing yards, but there's no reason this dude couldn't run. You got 165-pound Jaden Daniel running around everywhere and Bo Nix running around everywhere. There's no reason this guy cannot nut up and go carry the ball for his multi-million-dollar contract. So, shitting on him. But, like I said, this is going to help Logan with Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman. Really nothing to note here on D-Hop's first game. Neighbors only 13 targets. They might as well just bench him. He needs at least 25 targets a game. Jamison Williams, again, he was good for Logan. He's starting to fall down, not playing games. I saw, so he was already suspended for PEDs, and now he is under investigation for having a firearm in his car. So, there's a decent shot his suspension at least gets extended. I don't think it's really going to hurt Logan's team too bad, especially with these other guys coming back. Pittman, and he still has Madison on the bench. So I don't really think, obviously you want good players, but I really don't think that's a huge knock to Logan's team. So he'll probably kind of hang out in the rankings where he is right now. Mark's team, a little bit down, unfortunately. He had that great week last week. Caleb just couldn't get it done. Tyreek takes a little bit of a bump with Tua coming back. 2 catches for Amon-Ra for 7 yards. What happened? I didn't watch this game. And didn't they score 52 points? That's crazy. How is he not more involved in a 52-point game? That's pretty wild. And the rest of his team is just DJ Moore not really delivering, and Tyreek is fine, but yeah, I mean, it kind of just sucks. That's all you can really say about it. Still got good options, though. This team is still very much in the playoff hunt, if nothing else, just because they're 4-4. And I mean, we're over halfway through the year, and this team has been disappointing. And I look at the roster, and I'm still just like, these are names of people that are good at football, in my opinion. Like, these are dudes that should be delivering points, and they're just not doing it consistently. But even Tony and Olave on the bench here, 100-yard game, like, I just feel like he has too many guys to. He is absolutely in the mix for a sort of like back pocket playoff berth for Mark's team. So just keep it up, man. Caleb's team, yeah, they are putting up the points, and he's just continuing to get screwed. I'll talk a little bit about how I'm weighing the points versus the record. I think actually for these two guys, Mark and Caleb, whenever we get to the rankings. But yeah, I mean, like, Caleb can't even be mad about his team, really. I guess this is a disappointing game from Brees, but like, he put up points. Anytime you put up over like 100, 105, you kind of like put yourself in a position to win. And Caleb's been doing that every week, and just not. It's just the luck of the draw. So, like, everyone's delivering points too. Like a nice spread. Jordan Mason did get hurt, but I don't think that's too bad of an injury. But everyone else is putting up, I mean, 10 plus points, 15 plus. Brees with the down game. But, like, yeah, I mean, you can't even complain about it, right? Like, he didn't even have anything to, like, really improve on, I guess. Just, it's unlucky. You just keep fighting. John, though, finally, he has never been so back. John with the massive score that he's been waiting on all year, and all it took was like all of his good players to be healthy and all have good games at the same time. And yeah, that's what happens when it works, when your tight end's in there and you're catching touchdowns, and 100-yard games from your first round pick is definitely appreciated. And shoot, even Patty Mahomes, that's got to be one of his best games of the year, 20 points. Yeah, that is his best game of the year for fantasy anyway. So yeah, I mean, good job, John. Keep going, I guess. I think you have very little hope of getting into the playoffs, but you can ruin some seasons along the way, and it's a good consolation prize, like you're doing right now to Caleb, I guess. Okay, Carlo, yeah. Wait for him to get all lubed up while I talk about his team. Yeah, I mean, it's. I feel like I'm just repeating myself every week. Although, and we'll get to this when we go through the rankings. 2 major hits to his team this week. Lamar's going to be fine. Josh Jacobs is going to continue to get 25 carries a game. This makes no sense, by the way, that Josh Jacob is getting this volume of touches. By the way, if we go look at his rankings, I want y'all to look at these ranking finishes and tell me what year you think that I drafted him. Of all of his years in the NFL, what is the one year that I decided to roll the dice on him? Could it be the year coming after he led the league in rushing attempts and yardage, and I picked him thinking he would be safe? Man, that's probably what happened. And then he was dog shit. But anyway, he's getting these carries consistently. He's getting 20-plus touches consistently for this team. But the Packers have not had a consistent 20-touch carry guy since, Eddie Lacy? Like, they have never been an offense that runs, especially one guy, that often. Like, Aaron Jones was always a committee back, just very efficient. For the last decade, anyone, Ty Montgomery, and you just go down the list, Jamal Williams, every guy that's played for them has been like a committee guy, and they've just pieced it together. I mean, I guess they did spend the money on Josh Jacobs, so they want to get the use out of him, but what the F? How, you don't plan for that to happen, I guess. This is just very fortunate to get to get this type of production out of somebody who, quite frankly, was a disappointment last year. But hey, it is what it is. He gets the points. Even Saquon with a down week is 11. Now, the big one is obviously Diggs, losing your wide receiver 1. That is actually a huge knock. And then who else did I think about? Okay, Deontay Johnson. So he has been pretty solid for Andrew this year. His rank isn't super high, but he's had the ability as that number one option in Carolina, especially after Dalton took over, to go for these nice games, right? Like, he is a very solid flex play this year. Losing him and losing Diggs, I feel like is not insignificant, at least to maintain the type of performance that Andrew was. Obviously, it's still the best team in the league. Obviously, still going to remain at the top. But it is very much worth calling out that, now his top receiver is going to be Darnell Mooney, who is actually doing really well this year. And then I guess Jordan Addison or T. Higgins, I guess. Who's been very solid. The touchdowns absolutely help. But yeah, we're going to see how that goes. Andrew's team is always built on these running backs anyway. Jacobs, Barkley, and Aaron Jones, and then plus Lamar. So his team really does just like run the dang ball. So I'm not worried about his team, but they're now easier to beat. I'll say that. But still, I mean, it's 135 like clockwork every week for this team. So yeah, he gets another win at the expense of K-Man, who is very much hunting for the wins right now. 100 is decent. Again, probably not going to get you in based on points, but decent. But you really gotta pull in the wins here. But yeah, overall, like, I guess decent week. Geno's disappointing. Devontae Smith, he had a bad game last week, but he was good. George Pickens, I'm kind of surprised to only see 10. He had a couple catches in that Steelers game with Russ that were just like circus catches. And then K. Dotton was an elite pickup. Even before this week, with those two receivers going down, he's gotten 10 targets the last 2 weeks. He was one of the most targeted tight ends in the NFL, and just nobody rostered him, I guess because between Evans and between Godwin and between the running backs, people just, I guess he felt like he wasn't going to get that consistently enough, or he wasn't maybe being targeted, around the end zone. But he is now, and he's getting lots of targets, and, I don't know if he's going to score 15 plus a week, but it's going to happen sometimes. So, yeah, that was a great get by K-Man, in my opinion, was the K-Dotton pickup. And then not playing, this was, Puka played on Thursday. Maybe that's why, yeah, he's only played one game. So K-Man was worried about it. He shouldn't have been. Ooh, Josh Downs, he gets a nice bump too with the move to an actual quarterback, to a not Anthony Richardson. Also, this one touchdown he caught, if you were watching the Texans game, this is like one of the most embarrassingly open NFL receivers that's ever scored a touchdown. That was rough to watch him catch that touchdown. The Texans secondary just absolutely shit the bed. They were very lucky to win that game. But yeah, I mean, decent score came in, but you gotta get some wins, my guy. Tron's team pops off, of course. James Cook, great game. Yeah, again, this is Tron's team performing at their peak. Purdy did well. DeAndre Swift, one of his actually decent games here, efficiency-wise. Yeah, I mean, just top to bottom. Even Michael Wilson, the random Michael Wilson toss-in, catches a touchdown. I guess he's got 3 on the year, but yeah, not a name that I would expect to be catching a lot of touchdowns. And he gets C-Mac back here at some point. Probably not this week. Maybe next week. I'm interested to see if Tron probably just needs to go ahead and plug him in game 1. I mean, what do you got to lose? You are 4-4, so I guess you're technically, you're still in the playoff mix, but points-wise, you need as many as you can get, and you need as many wins as you can get. That is the name of the game, after all. It's points. Score more points. And then Chris, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to say. Even your best player in your team, Drake London, with his worst game of the year, or second worst game of the year, I guess. 4 for 34. That's rough. Yep. Otherwise, yeah, not much to call out. Even some of these upside guys that I liked kind of preseason and through some of the power rankings. Like Waddle. I mean, I guess this is better than he has been playing with Tua back, but nothing crazy. Wicks. I mean, he had that couple game stretch where he was hot, but yeah, basically it's touchdown dependent, really. Keenan Allen. Yeah, this might just be the year that Keenan just doesn't have it anymore. If you're this slow to ramp up, I don't know how much time and space there is for you to have a good season. Ladd McConkey did have a nice game on the bench, so that's great. That'll probably never happen again this season, so you missed out on that one. That fucking sucks. But otherwise, yeah, 75. That's a very bad score for a not good team. So, sorry, Krams. I don't know what to tell you. Try trading for a keeper. Try spoiling someone's season. Take some flyers. Burn through your fab. It's tough though. At least you might win $20 sometime. Oh, look, and Logan, while I was doing this, Logan did go ahead and drop Anthony Richardson. So we got the ESP going, I guess. Yeah, I think that was everybody, though. I think we ran through all the teams. Let's go ahead and jump into the ratings here. Rankings. So, again, here's the scores from last week, just ordered by the previous week's power rankings. And there wasn't a lot of movement. There was a couple things got kind of tightened up in my mind as I was going through this. And there was a little bit of movement down here at the bottom that we'll get to. But overall, the good teams were good and the bad teams were bad. So Andrew, he only got the third highest score this week instead of the second highest score. And I do think there are chinks in the armor for Andrew's team. Losing 2 receivers, obviously, you lose your number 1 receiver. That is rough, but we're going to see how that navigates. And then, while it's good to have Lamar on your team, obviously, and those running backs, I don't know, man. I just feel like the longer the season goes on, running backs are the most likely to get hurt, I think. Like, they just take the most hits. And just the longer the season goes on, I don't know. Maybe I'm just pulling shit out of my butt to make it seem like Andrew's more vulnerable than he is. But for now, I mean, still just crushing it pretty much across the board in all categories. Points first, wins first. League wins first. He's just killing it. Scottie gets a say in second place. He does kind of scoot up the board a little bit, I guess, at least like in spirit. Just because he got the high score for the second week in a row. And yeah, his team is just balling out. Kyler is running more. I think that's helping his team. Yeah, he's went from like 5 carries a game up to 6 or 7. I think that, and he's got 2 rushing touchdowns within the last 4 games. So I think that is gonna, if the Cardinals continue doing that, I think it's going to be good for him. Carl's team, it's going to stay locked in third. Yeah. Again, it's easy to put these top 3 teams, just keep them where they are. They were the top 3 highest scoring teams this week, so that made it really easy. Carl gets the win. He pulls farther away from kind of, second place in terms of record anyway. So good for Carl on that one. Now, the next one I kind of had, I know I've talked about our teams like in tiers. I think there is still Andrew at the top. Scottie and Carl just seem to fall very naturally into the 2 and 3 spot. And then Logan, myself, and Travis, we just have been right here kind of on the cusp all year. And I just feel like there hasn't been enough movement happening to make me move these guys around, these 3 teams. So we all have very similar cumulative wins here. We all have 4 actual wins. I think this week Logan's team did get a bit better with the Jonathan Taylor and one with Malik Neighbors coming back, two with Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman getting a change at quarterback. Like, I just think that's going to be nothing but good for him. Keep clicking on that. I'm going to close it out. Yeah, I think Travis's team is still right there in the hunt. They outscored me this week by 5 points. Andy has Nico coming back at some point in the next, maybe in like 2 weeks from now. So he'll get him for the last couple weeks of the regular season, and it sounds like he's going to come back strong. So that'll be good. And my team, like, I'm just so pessimistic. I am very much over CJ Stroud at this point. He has not delivered in the way I thought he would. I kept him with a 6th-round pick. He has one game over 25. Like, this, I think he has one game with more than 2 touchdown passes. Like, we knew he wasn't going to run, so I was like, oh, this dude needs to throw for, 35 touchdowns and 4,000 yards, and he's not like at all on that type of pace. Like, he's getting outscored by Bo Nix. Now, granted, Bo Nix is rushing. I think he has like 3 or 4 rushing touchdowns and 300 yards rushing, but yeah, not satisfied with the CJ Stroud performance. So I just went and got who did I get? Kirk Cousins off of waivers. But yeah, otherwise my team, I don't know. I just feel like something about him, man. I just don't trust any of them. Devontae Adams, like they're putting up points, but again, I don't know. Very touchdown dependent. Very. Brian Thomas got hurt. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just shitting on myself out of fear. But I just don't think my team has deserved, even though the cumulative wins are there and I'm putting up decent scores, it just doesn't feel like I can even creep into the top 3 or 4 here. So yeah, we're going to just keep it locked in right here. Now, Mark's team is going to hang out. This is really just because of the 4 wins. So Mark and Caleb, to me, are in the same tier. Not because, like, Caleb's team is obviously better. They've got the points, they've got the cumulative wins, but just the scheduling luck of only 2 wins. This is going to be very difficult to make up because he's competing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Half the league has half the league has 4 wins. So even if, you can jump 2 or 3 or 4 people, it only takes 2 of these 6 to win their next few games, and like it's just out of reach. And then Mark is kind of the opposite, where his team isn't probably as good, but he has the wins, and I think his roster is talented. So I think he could get just as lucky with scheduling as Caleb would need to basically like keep performing at a very high level just to get in on points. Because I was looking at our points. If we were to start playoffs right now, I believe Caleb would actually get in. Because we can take kind of these top few, if you just say like these top 4 make it in, Andrew's going to get the 1 seed based on points and on wins. And then second place, I believe, would be Scottie. And he would actually get the number 2 seed because we say the highest points for gets the number 2 seed, which would be Andrew, but he's already number 1, so Scottie would move up. Then it would be Carl, and if this score holds, then Carl locks in basically as number 3 seed because his record is so solid. And then that means number 4 and 5 would go to Logan, who's got a nice, 20, 30 points on me, but he's only ahead of Logan by like 20 points. So there is some wiggle room here where if Caleb just keeps scoring high enough, he could absolutely sneak into the 6th spot. Now, what he doesn't, basically the worst case scenario for Caleb is that some of the high scoring teams, like Logan's team, my team, Travis's team, we're all like in the high 800s, 900 right now, is that if we start losing games, but our points are still high, because Scottie would take the 2nd spot, that means there's only one other point spot available. And it would, if one of us doesn't get in based on record, one of these 4-4 teams, if we just get unlucky, but we keep putting up points, now Caleb is really competing with maybe 2 or 3 people for that, really the number 6 spot, right? So yeah, it's very much possible. He's very much in the mix, but again, if we're talking about power rankings and what are your odds to like make the playoffs and win a championship, I think it's just as likely that Mark gets some, maybe his team does improve and maybe he gets a lucky schedule, as it is that Caleb, continues performing at a high level and high enough that he has to like basically outcompete all these people ahead of him who are also scoring decent points. So Caleb is still very in the mix, but he's kind of like got a hard road ahead of him. There's not like an easy in for Caleb's team right now. Trond and Matt's team, I think, are still technically in, but again, they're kind of praying for miracles here. I did bump up Trond over Matt just because he did outscore him pretty well this week, so you got to give him credit for that. And that also jumped him up cumulative wins, and they're tied for, I don't know, they're not good teams, but they're here, And then John's team also got the ceremonial bump for having a really great score. This was a legitimately great week for John. You got to give him at least something here, right? But overall, that something tells me that's not going to be sustainable. But you got to give the guy something just for not being in last place for the 4th week in a row. So Chris, you get to settle back down into that shit for week 8. So like I said, not much going on here, but maybe that explains the thought process on like why I think these teams are all about where they should be for now. We'll see what week 9 has in store. So that's it for this one, guys. Later.